Hi, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. I hope that y'all had a really wonderful day. Today I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. The first part of this video is going to talk specifically to new preppers. And then the second part is going to be, pretty much why people, maybe even the government, might be against preppers. And then the third part is just some things to start really stocking up on if you can. Okay. So, for new preppers, first of all, just a couple of things to keep in mind. If you are brand new to prepping, if you have, you know, understood the importance now of what it means to prep and why, don't compare yourself to other preppers. So, as I said in my very first video, I've been prepping now for at least 8 years, and we have it down pretty well. And our goal is to be a full-on self-sufficient homestead. And we're working towards that, but it takes a while. We're not even close to a lot of people that have been prepping for 15, 20 years. So don't compare yourself to other preppers. Okay, they might be farther along than you, but you are where you need to be right now, and you know what your end goal is. So that's what's the most important. The second thing is there always seems to be that sense of urgency, like, oh my gosh, we're running out of time. We have to hurry up and get these things prepped. That's part of what prepping is, right? Because you want to be prepared. And nobody knows when an SHTF event is going to happen. And remember that preppers aren't always talking about the end of the world scenarios, right? We're talking about, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, something major happening in your neighborhood. SHTF can come from all different directions, right? So there's always that sense of urgency, like, well, am I prepared enough in this sense? But that's part of what prepping is. Remember that you don't want to make this the cause of your anxiety. You want to have that really super equal balance between living life without fear and also the knowing that you need to be prepared for when SHTF happens. Okay. Next, it changes you. It makes you really appreciate what you have. So when you are able to repurpose things, or when you're able to figure out how to do things in an alternative way, all of that adds hugely to your prepping. Okay. So along with that, it also helps you define your wants versus needs. What do you need to survive versus what do you want to make life more convenient and happy or whatever for you, right? And you will find that the more that you get into prepping, really what you need is God. You need God on your side, and you need to have the resources and the preps that will allow you to survive whatever it is that comes. What you want might be some of the added extra things to make that time a little bit more bearable, maybe, or a little bit more easy. But if you have limited resources, you're definitely going to want to focus on what you need versus what you want. Okay. When things become really uncertain, so we all lived through 2020, that's going to go down in the history books as an OMG year, right? but you've come through it. We all have survived 2020 and all of the challenges that it brought. So I think what most of us have learned from 2020 is that practical approach to how we would survive more uncertainty. And that's a lot about what prepping in is as well, is preparing for those uncertain times. For example, so we all have lived through that uncertain time, and it's the end goal is to be able to be prepared for whatever it is that comes. And I started talking about Texas, for example, with their, they had a massive power grid down in Texas when they had those storms come through. And it made people really feel like, is this going to go away? Is this something that's going to be fixed right away? How long is this going to last? How long will I not have hot water? Those types of things. But you have to determine what your end goal is. For us, our end goal is to have that off-grid homestead, but we're also building up a refuge for other people, depending on the situation, that might need to come and have a safe place to stay. Your end goal might just be to get through the next hurricane or tornado, or, if we have an economic collapse in the United States, how are you going to get through that? Making sure that your family is stocked up on food. That just might be your end goal. That's okay, because it really is up to you and what your needs are. Personally, I would suggest to you that you prepare for the longer term Mad Max situation where you are gardening on your own. You know how to hunt, you know how to fish, you know how to defend yourself, you know how to defend your home. But that's me, right? Because as a prepper, I want to make sure that I'm prepared for no matter what situation happens or for how long it happens. Okay? So you have to decide what your end goal is. And then lastly on this part, if the grid went down tomorrow, would you be able to survive a long-term grid down situation? That is the one thing that all of your preps should always be focused on. Again, how are you going to cook the food? How are you going to do your laundry? How are you going to bathe or shower? Right? How are you going to heat your home? These are things that, as new preppers, you really want to keep this stuff in mind, because it's just so super important. I would recommend that you have enough supplies for a year, depending on how big your family is, depending on if you have a mag group or not. Are you pulling your resources together to be able to survive that? Okay. So the second part of this video, and I'm just going to go through this real quick, why some people are not happy about the fact that many of us are preppers. And this is specifically talking about the government. They don't like the fact that we can grow our own food. Now remember, when you buy seeds, get heirloom seeds, okay? Because heirloom seeds allow you to, for example, when you harvest your tomatoes, you can get the seeds out of the tomatoes and have those ready for next year. If you're just getting the other seeds, the regular, Walmart seeds or the GMO seeds, they're not able to reproduce the following year. So you want to make sure that you're buying the heirloom seeds, but they don't like that, because if you control the food, you control the world, right? So be self-sufficient when it comes to your food. Living off the grid, again, it makes you a liability. You're not as easy to control when you are away from the media, for example, and when you are able to self-sufficiently live on your own without all of the government handouts, they don't like that because that makes you less easy to control. Homeschooling, for example, we're going to homeschool our daughter starting this fall. And they don't like that because it stops that level of indoctrination that they want your child to have in a public school. Now, if your children are in a Christian private school, or I guess maybe any type of private school, you might be okay, but they are still learning whatever indoctrination that school is feeding your child. So you want to make sure if your child is in a private school, whether it's Christian or not, that the underlying tone matches what your values are. And if they're not, you might want to consider that homeschooling. I don't want my child to learn certain things that I know are coming up for her future grades. And so we are going to make the stand that we want her to learn real history, right? And I don't have it out here, but the American Covenant book is a really good book to get for your family, and it teaches real history about the founding of our country and specifically about the Constitution. If you can get a copy of that book, that would be great. But the government doesn't like that because they don't want your kids to know real history. Okay? Another thing is that they really would prefer that both parents were working rather than one person staying home and homeschooling, taking care of the homestead, because that's less tax that they're able to collect, right? Because if you're both working, they're collecting a lot of taxes on you. If one of you is home and able to care for your kids and the other one is out working, that's less tax money. That's why we've been in a place where two parents have to work because the cost of living is so high. Well, you can break that cost of living by trimming down what you live with, right? So maybe you need to get rid of the satellite TV. Maybe you need to get rid of one vehicle and just have one vehicle that you have for your family. Things like this that you can trim out of your life so that you are able to have that one person home taking care of the kids and raising them with the values that you want them to be raised. I guess the last thing that I would say about this is that small businesses are really under attack because they really want everybody to be in these larger corporations where it's a lot easier to control. And I'm just going to throw this out there as an example, the vaccine. So a lot of the larger corporations are starting to mandate that you get the vaccine. Small businesses can much easier make that determination. It's actually anti-constitutional to force any sort of medical anything on you, right? Because they're not your doctor. They're the government. They don't get to tell you what you have to take into your body. But they're getting away with it because there's not a lot of people standing up to it, unfortunately. And not only that, but these are emergency use vaccines only. They've not been approved by the FDA. They cannot legally mandate them anyways. But again, there's not a lot of people standing up to it. So, it's one way to close out these smaller businesses. Now, the other way that they're doing it is by prolonging this unemployment. The more they prolong this unemployment, the less people are willing to go back to work because they're making more money on unemployment. And so the small businesses that can't get the employees in, either have to shut down or shorten their hours that they're open. And I know in my area, and I think maybe I talked about this in a previous video, it's making it really hard for small business employers to get help. That's restaurants, gas stations, right? It's really hard for these guys to stay open because people make more money being on unemployment. It's a way to, it does two things. Number one, it's the introduction to universal basic income, right? We all know that. If we can keep everybody happy with the income they're getting on unemployment where they don't have to get a job, it gets them used to not working. And then here, we as the government are just going to take care of you. That's the last thing you want. Go out and help your small businesses. If you've got the time and you're able to, go apply. Even if it's, very minimum wage, it helps them. It helps you become self-sufficient, and it puts a stop to the mindset that the government has. So that's all I'm going to say about that. The last part of this video is, so we've all heard that the person in the White House right now wants us as Americans to only eat 4 pounds of red meat a year. That's the goal by 2030. It falls right in line with UN Prop 2030 and the bills in New Hampshire and Oregon. You guys have heard me talk about that in my other video. So what I need you to do is, when you are prepping, you need to start prepping some of these red meat items. And now we're hearing that there's going to be a poultry shortage as well, chickens specifically. Okay, so you want to start stocking up on your canned goods that have red meat. So some of these are, and these are just some examples for you: chili, Dinty Moore, which has a really long shelf life, beef chow mein, corned beef hash, beef ravioli, spaghetti and meatballs, Campbell's vegetable beef soup, and some type of beef jerky. Okay? I would encourage you to start stocking up on these type of things, as well as maybe canning your own venison, right? If you have a deer hunter in the family and you can go out and shoot a deer when it's season, can it. Can the venison. All of that can be done. And I just want to show you real quick. I have this right here, and I have this here for a reason. I don't know if a lot of you are aware of this, but you can actually can cereal. Okay? So this is Rice Krispies, and then this is powdered milk, right? And so what you do, and I can, I think that I can add the exact way to do this, but you can Google it or YouTube it. There's a lot of great resources on how to do this. But what you do is you put the powdered milk in the bottom of your jar, and you put that in your oven for, I don't remember, so much time, right? It dries the milk out. And then you add your cereal. Now, with your cereal, you can do, I don't recommend doing any sugar cereals, such as Fruit Loops or, what is that, Captain Crunch or whatever. I would stick with your grain cereal. So Rice Krispies, Raisin Bran, shredded wheat, like plain shredded wheat, that type of stuff. I would not recommend doing this with your sugar cereals. So once you've put this in the oven, then you add your cereal, and then you put it back in the oven again, and this has canned your cereal. Okay? So when it comes time and you have to use your breakfast, you dump out the cereal or most of it. You add your water, and I believe it's a cup of water. You shake that up into the dry powdered milk. That makes your milk, and then you pour that over your bowl of your canned cereal. So in this, you have breakfast, and you can actually can that. So I wanted you guys to see that there are so many different ways that you can do this. If you want me to give like the step-by-step instructions on this, I will try to do that in the description. I'm still learning like how to do a lot of things on here, but I will try to do that for you so that you know how to do that. If you have any other questions about canning, like canning meats, canning soups, please put that in the comment section below, and I will answer any question that you have about canning. This is a super important part of your preps as well. All right. Again, on a positive note, because that's how we like to end, and I'm sorry that I'm running a little bit long on this one. You're not alone in this. Remember that. You are never alone in this. There's people out there like me trying to help you learn how to do this prepping. If you're already a good prepper, you probably have a lot of great knowledge that you can share with the new preppers in the comment section below. I'm always learning still. So if you know of ways to do things differently, please, I'm always happy to hear that. You can also email me at positiveprepper@gmail.com, and I will respond within 24 hours for sure. And just know that we're all learning together. We're just on different levels. So don't get frustrated. Keep on prepping. Stack it to the rafters and stack it again. Thanks for watching the Positive Prepper. Please hit that like and subscribe button and hit the notification bell. God bless.